Do you know what a duck's favorite ballet is?
Swan Lake?
No, the Nutcracker. Okay.
All right.
This is Dawn with Highlines Help for Abused Spouses. Our mission is to enable peace by breaking the silence surrounding domestic violence and sexual assault. I have with me today Connie Huffman, who is the Executive Director of Highlines Help. And we're going to be talking a bit about the program and how it got started. This is our first official podcast, something that's been in the making for a couple years now. So it's going to be short and sweet, and forgive us if we stumble a little bit because we are new at this. But hi, Connie.
Hi. This is an exciting moment to be able to start our podcast and learn all about it. And I want to thank Alex Huffman for helping us get this going and advising us on this. So thank you, Alex.
He looks like he got caught in the headlights over there. Okay. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and your history with the program?
Well, as Dawn said, my name is Connie Huffman, and I've been with the program for, I think, about 42 years. I started out as a volunteer with the program and worked my way up the ladder, become a co-director in 1990 and director in 93, I believe.
Okay, and when did the program start? And can you give us a little bit of history about that?
Well, the program actually started in 1976, and it was called Triangle Transition at the time. And it was started by a lady, a wonderful lady named Loy Chevelicek, who was a farm wife up on the High Line in Hill County. And she was really concerned about her neighbors, friends that she knew that were experiencing abuse and had no place to go, no way to get away from it. So she started doing research into what could be done. And this was about the time that the domestic violence movement started in the United States, and sometimes Montana's a little slow of getting started on some of this stuff. But Highlines Help for Abused Spouses is the oldest program in the state of Montana, direct service program. I believe there are some shelters that were up and running, possibly some of the YWCAs that were starting to use their facilities for sheltering women at that time.
And why did Loy start the program? What was it she was seeing that concerned her?
Well, she was concerned about, first of all, how rural we are and the lack of services and the lack of help for women and children that were being isolated and had no way to get away from their abusers. So that was why she had gotten into this and had started researching what could be done. And so the program at that time was called Triangle Transition, and that was the program that was instrumental in getting the shelter in Havre started, which after that was established, why they kind of broke away from that and changed the name to Highlines Help for Abused Spouses. And the intention was to come down the High Line and pick up other counties that did not have any services in them. And this is about the time that I got involved in the early 80s, mid 80s, because I had read in the paper they were having a training up in Shelby on this. And so a friend of mine and I went to the training, and there were no other people up in this area. There was no advocates up in this area. So that's how I got started, was going to the training and then become a volunteer for the area up around Conrad and Shelby in that area.
Okay. And speaking of areas, how big of an area does Highlines help cover? It's quite an extensive area.
It's a little over 16,000 now, as we have taken on just recently part of Lewis and Clark County. But the counties are Liberty County, Toole County, Glacier, Ponderay, Teton, and Chota County. It's pretty much most of the Golden Triangle area. That's what we call up here is a Golden Triangle area. And then just recently, like I said, we have taken on a part of Lewis and Clark County, which is Augusta, Lincoln, in through like Craig and in through that area to do outreach advocacy. So that added more square miles to the original. So it's over 16,000 square miles at this time.
Okay. And how did you go from being an advocate with the program in the 80s to running it and taking it over come early 90s?
Well, I was also on the board as a volunteer. We were really low on board members because of our incorporation papers and stuff. We had to have at least 3 board members. And so at one point, why they were down to under 3, and so they asked me to be on the board. So I was a volunteer and a board member at that time. In 1990, I was hired as a co-director. And then in 93, the director who was getting ready to relocate at the time decided that maybe we should just let the program go because she wasn't going to be able to do it anymore. And I suggested that maybe we needed to try to keep it going. And so therefore that resulted in her bringing all of the stuff that was the program had, all of the paperwork, everything, to my house, and it all went in my barn, in the office of my barn. So that's basically what I worked out of for a while until was able to rent a space in Conrad.
Okay. What services does Highlines help provide? First of all, who do we serve? Who can get services from Highlines Help?
Well, anybody that is in a domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking situation. It doesn't have to just be women. It can be men too. We don't provide we have child advocacy, but most of the time that is, say, a teenager that has been in a dating violence situation or sexual assault situation that doesn't involve family services.
Okay. So say someone is being abused or has been in an abusive dating violence relationship, and that could be an adult dating violence relationship too. It doesn't necessarily have to be teenagers. And they call the crisis line or they come in. What services can we provide for them to help them out?
Well, it totally depends on what it is that they're seeking. If they are wanting counseling, we have a counselor that comes up out of Great Falls twice a month. If they need legal help, say an order of protection, we can help them with that paperwork. And if they just need somebody to talk to, if they need to relocate, they need transportation, do they need to go to the hospital? We ask all those questions, right up front. What is it that they need? Because we don't know that. We need them to tell us what we can do to help them. And if it is, they just want us to listen, that's what we do. But we also provide different options and different resources that we can give them at the time. So
Okay, so some of our resources are a 24-hour crisis line.
yes, we've had this 24-hour crisis line from day one with the program. It used to be in another town. We've had to move it around a few times, but the crisis line number has been probably in existence and being advertised for well over 40 years. And so the crisis line, which is 1-800-219-7336, is dispatched into an answering service, which they have our advocate schedules as to who's on call, and then they call that advocate, and then we return the phone calls. We try very hard to make sure that the turnaround time from the time a victim calls the crisis line to the time that they talk to an advocate is within minutes, instead of, within 5 to 10 minutes of being able to get back to the victim.
Let's talk about the advocates that we have at the office. About how many are there, and what kind of training do they go through to be able to work effectively with the victims of domestic violence and sexual assault?
Well, we have, counting our counselor, we have 6. And we have to go through a lot of training. To begin with, why we go through 40 hours of training, and then it is continued training throughout the time they're here. Whether it is, I send them to a out-of-state training if we have the funds to do that. We offer trainings, but our advocates are continually being trained, and as technology changes, so does our program have to change. And sometimes it's difficult to make change. I say a lot of times, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But having been here for so many years, I realize that I get really comfortable in what we're doing when we really should be reaching out and doing other things. And that is one of the reasons for us to start this podcast, is to be able to reach out and to a different audience, possibly young, old, whatever, but to get the word out, to be able to get this out on different social medias so that people understand more about domestic violence and sexual assault and what it does to people that are involved in it, and how many people end up dying from being in these relationships. Stalking is very, very dangerous. So there is a lot of victims that have died at the hands of somebody that loves them, and so we want to make sure that we can reach out with and keep up with the times and the technology to reach out to as many people as we can.
You mentioned briefly before that we offer trainings. Who do we offer trainings to, and on what subjects typically?
Well, we offer trainings to law enforcement, dispatch, family services, welfare, any agency that is a first responder to domestic violence, which would be also hospital staff. They're one of the first ones. If somebody needs to go to the hospital, the nurses, the doctors need to be trained in what to look for. Not only injuries on the victim, but also how they're acting, what they're saying, to help determine as to whether or not they need to call an advocate in. Law enforcement, it's important that law enforcement understand our job as well as it is that we understand their job, so that we can work together and not against each other. So we always ask law enforcement to train us as well as we train them.
Can you talk a little bit about how Highlines Help is also a victim witness program?
Yes, we are the only victim witness program in this area also. And the difference between the domestic violence program and a victim witness program is the victim witness can be any crime. It doesn't have to be domestic violence. It can be a robbery, wherever there's a victim and a perpetrator. The stipulation for that is that there has to be a case number, and there has to be cooperation with law enforcement and prosecutors for us to do that. And we pretty much are a liaison between the victim and their attorneys, the courts, make sure that the victim knows when court dates are, what decisions have been made with the prosecutor's office, what they need to do as far as their cooperation with the law enforcement. So there is a bit of a difference as to which program that they would qualify for.
Okay.
But it's all free. I need to add that we don't charge for any of that.
And does Highline Help provide shelter services? Because I think a lot of people get confused between the difference of a advocacy program and a shelter program.
We do not have a shelter building, like say Great Falls, Havre, Missoula. What we use, and there's several other programs that around the state that are in rural areas like us that use motels or hotels. And so that's what we use here for victims. For 2 or 3 days, we give them a chance to get settled in and make so they can make an educated decision as to what they want to do next, whether they want to move on to a permanent shelter. And again, that is a difficult thing to do because our shelters are so full. So a lot of times it's hard to get victims into shelters that are close by, but we have access to all shelters throughout the United States too. So we use the motels, and again, it depends entirely on the situation as to how many days that we can keep them in a motel before we have to move on with them. So it gives them time. If they want to get an order of protection, say, they have time to get the paperwork and get that done and to make a decision what they want to do.
Okay. Well, that is a brief overview of Highlines Help for Abused Spouses and our program and the services that we can provide. Connie, is there anything else you want to add for our first podcast?
Well, I think I need to give the address of the program. We're located in Conrad, Montana, and our address is 300 North Virginia, Suite 307, Conrad, Montana. Our office phone number is 406-278-3342. And again, our crisis line number is 800-219-7336.
We also have a website, www.hlhas.com, and we are on Facebook, just under Highlines Help for Abused Spouses. So we will go ahead and wrap up this first podcast of Highlines Help, and this is Connie Huffman, Executive Director, that we've been talking to. I'm Dawn, and stay safe, be healthy, and enjoy life. Thank you.